Come on. There we go. Hey, we are live, Anthony Melchiori. Another day, another show. How are you feeling today?
Happy Friday.
On Thursday. Man, it is our Friday, though, so that's good. And guess what, guys? I'm actually going to hit the button for the correct show open today. Let us know what you think about it.
I'm Anthony. Welcome to No Vacancy Live. That's my friend Glenn.
You're watching the #1 show in hospitality. Man, the more I watch that, the more I like that.
Dude, you took the words out of my mouth.
That's awesome. I'm glad we finally figured out how to do that correctly. We've been going back and forth for a couple of weeks over the music and some of the cuts and stuff, so It's great to see that out there. So let me start off by saying, Anthony, welcome everybody to No Vacancy Live. We got Anthony Melchiori right over there, and I'm Glenn Hausman. Great to see you today, sir.
Great to see you. And it took us a little while, but our Tamara and her company did that, right?
That is correct.
Yeah, great job, Tamara. You guys did really, really good work, especially from, what we gave you was good, but this was a lot better. So thank you very much. And for our podcast fans, you can always go and look at it if you'd like to on Facebook or LinkedIn. We're actually not going to show or actually even have that intro for our podcast fans. So you may not know what we're talking about. We're going to go right into the show. So you're going to hear us right after the podcast, after the intro. You're just going to hear us start talking. So you're not even going to know what the intro is all about. So go and take a look at it.
I like this. We like to be full of mystery. And while you're at it, make sure you download that audio version because we understand that everybody can't be stuck at their computers watching our gorgeous faces every single day. So check it out, the podcast feed, to Checking In with Anthony and Glenn, and the No Vacancy podcast feeds. Right. Either one will do. We appreciate you downloading it.
And just FYI, the vast majority, 99% of the people that watch this show are really listening to it. They're not watching. Right. Because more people can't take the hour during the day. So when you see the views and you're like, oh, there's only a couple thousand views, believe me, on podcasts, we're getting hundreds of thousands of views, listens a month. And thank you again to our audience and to the people that are on the show.
And while we're talking about that, though, I mean, you get a couple of thousand views on your page, a couple thousand views on my page, a couple thousand views on the other pages, blah, blah, blah. Before you know it, we're getting a lot of views, too. So don't discount that.
We're getting 750,000 a month. So what are we talking about today?
We are going to talk about me smoking more pork butt because I know that's your favorite topic. Just kidding. I won't subject you to that.
So, David, why don't we pull up the that article we sent last night that I sent you about, or Glenn sent about the airlines and what
I think you sent it, but take a look at. We've been talking about this very specific issue over the last couple of days, and we've been wondering why the hospitality industry in general, including the airlines, hotels, and other support services, aren't putting up this factoid. Dave, please bring that up with us. He just had it on a second. All right, check this out. 1.2 billion passengers, Anthony, started traveling since the beginning of 2020 with only 44 cases of potential or probable transmission associated with the flight. 1 in 27 million. What does that say to you?
That says to me that it's safe to fly. But again, you got to take your own precautions. You got to wear a mask. So David, take that down, please. And listen, we're not scientists. We don't know if that's 100% accurate or not. However, everything that we're hearing, everything we're seeing, that's another report that backs it up. It's safe to fly. I was just on the phone with a friend of mine from a major brand, and we were talking about different issues. And I said, when is the brand going to start traveling? The executives from all these brands, whether it be Marriott or Hilton or whatever brand it is, when are they going to start traveling? And I think it's really important to show the world that it's time to start traveling. So enough about that. Enough about
hold on. Mark Mack says, heard the airlines have slowed the cleaning in between flights. I don't know if that's true or not. That sounds like pure rumor to me. I can't imagine that they would do that.
Yeah, and I don't know why they would do that. And then just pick an airline that hasn't done that.
Yeah.
It says everyone fly to New York and stay in Long Island. Or no, fly to New York and go to Times Square and go to New York. The restaurants are open. We just had a friend of ours who we're supposed to do the show from on Monday. And unfortunately, his restaurant has been closed again because they're just not paying the bills. There's not enough business. So no, fly into JFK and go to the Rockaway Hotel or go to Times Square and stay at one of those wonderful hotels. So please, listen, it's New York safe, but any place is safe as long as you're taking care of yourself. Again, I'm not, if there's an outdoor facility, I'm eating outdoors. If it's a restaurant at 25% and I can sit in the corner, I'm eating inside with a friend or a family member. It is safe to travel. In some instances, it's safe as ever because everybody's wearing a mask. But you got to be comfortable. There's people in my family that are not comfortable yet.
Right. But then there's me. I'm super comfortable. I like getting out there. We're going to continue to get out there. Anthony, where am I coming from today? Let me tell you all that. Today we're coming to you from, I'm not coming to you from the Dillon Hotel in New York City. This is the Alchemist Suite that's over there. Absolutely beautiful room. Happens to be managed by Crestline Hotels, and I think that should take us into our guest.
We should have somebody from Crestline on the show.
I think that's a great idea. Let me see if I can find one. Welcome to the show, Ed Hoganson of Crestline Hotels. Ed has all the job titles over at Crestline. He's a CFO, Chief Information Officer, Chief Everything Officer. Could you bring up his title, Dave? Because I can't remember all of these titles. CFO. There we go. EVP, CFO, Chief Investment Officer. Crestline Hotels, of course, has 124 properties that they're managing all across the United States, including that one right there in New York City. Ed, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
Anthony?
Hi, how are you? Welcome.
Happy Friday.
Sorry, I felt like I was talking a little too much. No. So, every day is a Friday on No Vacancy Live because we're spreading the love and making people feel really good.
So, Ed, one of the questions I like to ask people to come on the show, we know who you are. People in the industry know who you are, but a lot of people don't know who you are. So what I like to start with is what was your first job in the hotel business and what are you doing today? And then we'll get into all our questions.
So started in the hotel business out of graduate school with Marriott International and interviewed with them and on the finance, kind of corporate finance role. So I was at their corporate headquarters, not at a hotel. And they were asking questions about, net present value and internal rate of return in the interview. But the key question came down to, do you play softball? I think that's kind of what actually landed me my first job. Because I learned, pretty much everybody coming out of business school, they can talk about the answers like net present value and internal rate of return. But for Marriott and for the industry, it really is about being a team player. And I was able to answer the question correctly and say, yes, I love playing softball. And Marriott corporate office had a very robust softball league. And it was a great way to meet people in different departments and a great way to kind of build the team.
I think that's a great analogy. When I was a little kid, I won the team player award. I was maybe 11 years old. Nice. And because I wasn't really good and I got benched a lot, but anytime they called me to do something, I always came through. And that really stayed with me because I didn't think I was a team player because internally I was always saying, get me in the game, but I never complained. So the manager thought I was very patient, which I wasn't, but I never complained. So I think that's a good analogy.
Yeah, sorry. You guys have now got me thinking very sadly about my childhood because I was the kid who the gym teacher had to put on the team because nobody would pick them. It was very, very sad.
So after that, where'd you go?
And so actually with Marriott, kind of stayed very close to that family of companies. Marriott had a number of spinoffs and got involved on the corporate finance side of some of their spinoff companies of Host Hotels. Mm-hmm. And then Host Hotels spun off a company called Crestline Capital. And basically I got spun off in different directions with the groups, but continued working with a lot of the same people and then have been on and off with Crestline Hotels for coming up on a couple decades.
That's fascinating that you keep getting spun off with these companies. I mean, obviously nothing personal, though we can make a lot of jokes about that, but that's a very unique position to be in. What does that feel like, and what are the opportunities that come with something like that?
So it feels like they're all trying to dump me and move on. But actually, I'm very involved in creating those new companies, and it's fascinating. And the industry has got. I've been so lucky and have so many opportunities in the industry, and part of that is creating these new companies. And I live outside of Washington D.C., which really is the Silicon Valley of hospitality, with companies like brands like Marriott and Hilton and Choice all based here, as well as now most of the large real estate owners of hospitality, all based in and around the DC area. And so we got to work with a lot of those different groups. We created companies. We created, after Crestline Capital, created a company called Highland Hospitality, which became a publicly traded REIT. Worked on the startup and now a public company called Playa Hotels. All-inclusive resorts in Mexico and the Caribbean. And a great time, fantastic experience being able to travel to some of those destinations as we got that company up and running. And then more recently, worked with a company called Hospitality Investors Trust, which is another public of select service hotels.
Right. Wow. That's a whole lot of different companies that you were working with. It's amazing you can keep track of it all. What is the greatest lesson that you've learned from spearheading the spinoff of all of these particular companies?
So I think it all goes back kind of the teamwork we were talking about before. The softball metaphor or allegory. It really is about kind of working collectively and collaboratively with the other people in the group. And I see kind of hospitality and transactions and operations. It's not rocket science, but it is attitude. And that attitude is so important. And that's kind of how you communicate with people. It's setting expectations. It's kind of working with them, again, in an ongoing or a long-term fashion. I approach it kind of looking at transactions or opportunities, not as a one and done, best and final negotiation, getting every, drop of blood. It's an ongoing process. And it's part of kind of your reputation in the industry, your company's reputation in the industry. And you want to build that network and get a reputation for doing the right thing and being fair and persevering. And that kind of collaboration or teamwork is really going to help propel and create new opportunities for you and your company.
What's the landscape look like right now? Let's not go backward and say, how'd you get through this and what's the worst and all that, because we talk about that to nauseam. September, August, October. What just happened in September? What's happening in October? And what are you forecasting for November across your hotel portfolio, which is around the country? What are you seeing?
And of course, we understand that New York City is not going to be performing like other markets as well.
So when you ask how are things, it's all relative, right? It all depends on your baseline. And if you're comparing it to 2019, things are horrible.
Right.
And if you're comparing it to July and August, things are looking a lot better. But I'd even take a step back and say it depends on your perspective of not just the time frame that you're comparing it to, but this segment of the industry. In Crestline Hotels, we manage hotels around the country, predominantly for brands like Marriott, Hilton, Hyatt, IHG, but also some independent or boutique hotels like the Dillon in New York. And that ranges then from Hampton Inn, Fairfield Inn on the select service side, all the way up to the big box, 500 key Marriott's, Hilton's, and Crown Plazas.
Right. And let me just throw in a quick note over there. And they really have hotels spread throughout the entire country: New Mexico, Arizona, Texas, Arkansas, Alabama, the whole panoply of places.
But your answer, kind of the answer is, it really varies on the type of hotel and where you are.
Right.
To say the hotel industry is doing better it's kind of a tale of two cities here, where we've got the select service, specifically the extended stay select service hotels that have been much more resilient. And they're down, our portfolio, they're down today about 15 or 20% to 2019. So I'm talking about, Residence Inns or Homewood Suites and Hyatt houses and Hampton Inns, Fairfields, brands like that, which 15 to 20% could last year. That's horrible. But it's only 15 to 20%. And then it's improving. But if you're talking about the big conference center hotels, that rely on group business, have got 10,000 square feet of meeting space, they are down 50%, 60% to last year, and they are going to take a long time to come back. The focus really is on taking some of those big box hotels and pivoting the direction a little bit, and you're not going after the groups of 500 people or 200 people or even 100 people that was your core business before. And instead, you're trying to change that business mix.
So how do you go ahead and do that, particularly in an environment? We've spoken about this a lot on the show yesterday when we were speaking to Donald Wise from Turnbull Capital, talking about how some of the sales folks have never seen a downturn. I mean, you have to go all the way back to somebody starting in the industry before 2009 to really have someone with that type of experience. So how do you engage your team to make that seminal shift?
And you're absolutely right. It is completely different from what we've seen before. And so it is kind of giving those teams the support and the direction to be able to change. And so before, the direction had been those bigger hotels. It's a win if you get out, the 500 group business that's going to be there, a conference that's staying for a week. And that's your win, and you can go out and get it. And now it is giving them different guidance and accolades and praise for going out and getting the groups that are bringing in 5 people and bringing in 2 people and still emphasizing the direct sales. And we've been very successful in kind of growing share, in part because some of our competitors, they just stopped and they said, we don't know what to do. And instead you go out and say, no, you have to go out and get the business. But the business now is if you can get 2 business travelers and get that company coming in 5 days a week, that's a big win. And to do that, you got to get out and continue with your sales calls and get rewarded and recognized for continuing those efforts. When again, you're only bringing in a handful of business from each business demand generator.
When we're talking about the big boxes that have these big convention spaces, this is how I see it, and I can be 100,000% wrong because I'm not dealing with these transactions every day, but I'm hearing a lot of things. It's going to come down to, like we're hearing the Hilton in New York may close. I just heard that Glenn mentioned it, the big one on 6th Avenue, and other convention hotels. They're getting absolutely just they're done right now. So they're sitting idle. They're sitting with zero cash flow, basically. How I see it is they're going to be acquired. They're going to be renovated, and they're going to take a 2-year hiatus until things get better. I cannot see where we go forward from now, staying in business, being in these big hotels, these big boxes, without conventions for 2 years and without closing and either just going silent and just taking the loss on your books. Or saying, hey, we're going to sell it for maybe a 15% loss. We're going to get out of that business. Someone else is going to come in with more money, renovate it, reposition it, close some of the big rooms, slice those up to maybe guest rooms and change their mix. Am I anywhere near accurate?
Near accurate, yes.
Only 87,000%.
No, but Ed, what do you think about that?
So again, remember there are 3 legs to the hospitality stool. You've got the brands, Marriott, Hilton, and Hyatt. You've got the owners that own the real estate, and then you got the operating companies. The owners of the big box hotels that you're talking about are generally larger institutional owners.
Right.
So these are not the smaller kind of family operations that'll own a Hampton Inn or own a Choice Hotel. These are groups like Host Hotels or the private equity groups that have very deep pockets that, frankly, I think are much better positioned to be able to ride out the downturn here.
Aren't they going to maybe slide some of these projects off of their financials?
I agree. There will be occasional, I think, kind of opportunities where they can say, it's going to be better positioned, as a transition to residential, or selling it to somebody that's willing to put in the money and take, like the Waldorf Astoria, and take a couple floors and make it residential or reposition it. Then yes, there will be cases of that, but I don't think we're going to see wholesale. All the big boxes are going to be shut down, closed, and
no, absolutely not.
And part of that again is because the ownership entities that have those hotels.
Yeah, and I'm not talking about it across the board, but I'm saying in some markets you're going to see these big hotels that have become emotional to us, because when you walk down 6th Avenue, you see the New York Hilton. There's an emotional connection because we all have stories about the New York Hilton. We all have stories about the Sheraton. We all have stories about the Waldorf. Every one of us that have come to New York, either you're in the business or not in the business, these are like cousins. These are family members. And when they're shut down, it leaves a lasting hole in these cities. So I'm not saying a lot of them, but I am saying you're going to see some of these deals where they're going to slide them off to save their other deals.
I think yes, I agree. I think you will see some. The big boxes, I don't think you'll see as many. I think you're more likely to see closures and sales from kind of a little bit of the next tier down, which are the smaller full service that are owned by perhaps less well capitalized groups. Okay. Those could be smaller funds or high net worth individuals that just don't have the stomach or the patience to wait it out.
Could you give us an example of a property like that? Not necessarily a real life example, but just a hypothetical type of a hotel that might be in that situation.
Sure. I'd say kind of a 200 to 300 key full service hotel that's, again, maybe owned by a group that has 1 to 10 hotels.
Right.
And for them, that's going to be a lot harder. And they'd raised a fund with some, friends and family, or, brought in some private equity group to do a little bit. They're under pressure from their investors to turn something around. In the life of their fund is, 5 to 10 years. And they're going to say, we don't have the patience to put more money into it to wait it out.
Right. And then there's another element of it, Ed, where, like, if you're in Anaheim, for example, where Disneyland may not be able to open now until next summer and meetings may not take place there, it'll be a very different experience for that type of property than it might be somewhere in Florida, which is fully reopened, correct?
Correct. But even Orlando is great that those have opened. And so they're going to be able to weather the storm a little bit better, but still, it's very painful. We look at our markets, and markets like Orlando, Las Vegas, Anaheim, those are the ones that have been hit. New York City, obviously, those are the ones that have been hit the hardest.
The Wynn is just shut down, or the Encore at the Wynn has just been shut down. I was just there 2 weeks ago, and they just shut it down.
Just so everybody knows, that's not 7 days a week. That's Mondays through Thursdays. They'll reopen on Thursday for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday evenings.
Oh, really? I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we talk about shutting down, people are thinking about the owners and, it's horrible for their financial circumstances. And it is. The owners are very financially focused. But for us on the operation side, it's about the people.
Absolutely.
And you think about the impact that it's having. It's not just about making debt service. It's about putting people out of jobs. And these are people that they need this, income for their families and everything. And we had to lay off or furlough, thousands of people in the pandemic. And we are starting to bring people back now as we are seeing a little bit of more momentum. Anthony, going back to your question, we are seeing a little bit of growth in September and October, and business is coming back. So we are starting to hire people back, but it's still so painful for, on a personal level. At the hotel staff.
And that's what pains me here in New York. Again, we talked about this yesterday. I think the shutdown, in the beginning they handled it properly. I think blocking 30 to 40 states from coming to New York City and they have to quarantine for 2 weeks, you're taking the responsibility out of the people's hands. It's like, we can do this. We can do it safely. And those people who aren't paying attention will be asked to leave the hotel or the restaurant. But we cannot continue this for a couple more months. We can't. And so I was all for the 30 states being banned from coming in unless they quarantine for 2 weeks months ago. But today we've seen other cities and other states do it appropriately and peak a little bit, but then get it under control again. So again, I'm not in government and I don't know what the right answer is. All I can tell you is New York City is getting hit probably, and you would know this better than anybody, Ed. Outside of Vegas, I think we're getting hit the worst.
Yeah. Oh, and you are in government. I mean, we all are kind of in pushing, and you guys have been very vocal and trying to tell, hey, we got to get another relief package out there, and we got to, push, and that's incredible, and that's exactly what we should be doing. The initial PPP loan, or payroll protection program, it was very important for our industry and for our people at the hotels. And it's been disappointing that we haven't seen anything else coming out of that.
Right.
The hospitality is I think is the second largest employer in the private sector behind healthcare. And the layoffs that we've seen at our hotels, again, reflective of the industry, is just devastating. And that's got a trickle down effect for everybody that relies on those people at our hotels.
Yeah, and the people that are employed, I'll just say I had a conversation with a young manager recently, and I'll leave it at that. And that person is working around the clock, 7 days a week, and they're basically running the hotel with a few other people.
Right.
They're concerned not about the work and not about maybe even, I don't know if they got a cut and pay, but I assume they did. They're not concerned about that. What they're concerned about is their safety. And when you're having somebody run a hotel at 12 o'clock at night or 3 o'clock in the morning, and they're the only person in the hotel, okay, in one of these big cities or even any city, it's dangerous. So one of the things that I want to say to any owner, any employee, any brand is I understand the need to go really, really light. However, we've got to maintain the safety and security of our employees. That really broke my heart, and I'm going to do whatever I can do, but it really broke my heart.
Absolutely agree. Oh my gosh, you're absolutely. And during this time, there are a lot of steps that the operators and management companies can take to cut costs, and they have, and they are, and it's a lot of things that make a difference. But when it comes to safety, you can be very foolhardy, and it's not worth it. It's not worth it from an insurance program. It's not worth it for your hotel staff. And one of the things that we did during the pandemic is we did not have any layoffs kind of for our regional corporate team because the hotels are under more stress now and the teams at the hotels than they've ever been before. And so they need that support. They need that help. And they need to have somebody kind of there to give them guidance and communicate and support. But on security, you're absolutely right. And we have very sometimes tough conversations with owners that are saying, no, I need to, save a little bit more. And it's like, hey, if we cut one position in security, that's not going to save your $30 million loan issue.
Right.
And so let's be smart about this.
Right. And you might actually be opening yourself up to some more problems in the future. In that same vein, we got a question, Ed, everything moved on me, from Kyle, who says, do you think the big brands need to reposition service expectations in this climate for those big box hotels and maybe some others as well?
Great question. And yes, yes, and yes. And it's a matter of kind of setting those expectations. Kyle is absolutely right. Setting the expectations before the customers book. So updating the websites, if your people are booking on OTAs, making sure the, booking.com or those channels know things like, hey, my pool is closed or I'm not offering a buffet. And so setting those expectations early. And then even after the customers or the guests book their reservations, sending them follow-up, sending them emails saying, hey, here's the protocols. We expect you to wear a mask when you're in the public space. And here's what we're doing. We are cleaning. You can have virtual check-in. You don't need to go to the front desk. But if you want to, we have masks. And if you don't have one, we can provide one to you. But letting them know the expectations so they're comfortable. And it makes the guests feel better about it, but also it helps your hotel staff. And so there isn't as much confusion coming in. And you put signage up to say, the health center, the fitness center is closed, or only 3 people allowed in the fitness center at a time. And things like that, just so everybody is aware of what's going on. You absolutely want to set the expectations early and often.
And transparency, as we've been saying, is critical. We had a question yesterday about housekeeping services. I, for one, don't think housekeeping services is ever going to be the same. I think there's 2 things that fold. One, before the pandemic, it was kind of everyday housekeeping services. It was kind of, a lot of people didn't want it. And I think now, during these times, we really needed to we needed to save money, and we needed to basically keep our hotels open, and also for the safety of our employees and our guests. Very important. However, I think that brands and management companies are going to use this to offset other expenses, whether it be more cleaning in public areas. And I don't think that everyday cleaning service is coming back anytime soon. That's just my opinion.
I agree with you. We're in a lot of areas we are cutting costs and try and do everything we can. And one of those is the stay over guests. And
Right.
like Glenn raised his hand, said, when you're staying over more than one night, how much do you really want somebody to come in and clean and tidy up with your things there and all that?
That'd be zero for me.
And that's true with most guests, frankly, is and right now especially. No, but I agree. I think that's an area that is likely it's not going to come back.
So Ed, this is sorry. Please continue. Then I've got a question.
I was going to say, there are some changes that have happened in the pandemic they're temporary. And they're going to come back, and travel is going to come back, and your F&B, changes. They're going to come back. Eventually, you are going to have buffets again. But Anthony, I think you're right. That's one change it's efficient for the owners, it's efficient for the brands, and the guests are okay with it. Sort of like delivering a newspaper at your door. That went away at the end of the last downturn in 2008 or 9, and that's not coming back, and people don't miss it.
Right. I exactly. And I'll tell you, Ed, we talk a lot on the show about how this is a great reset button. And one of the problems that the major brands have all had with competing for guests and competing for owners is putting more and more things into the properties. Colloquially, we call that amenity creep. Shoving as many things into the hotel as possible, but it doesn't necessarily give the hotel guests what they need. They're trying to figure out what guests want. So this sounds to me as a natural point for us to reinvent absolutely everything that might help with cost savings, while also, in my opinion, increasing customer service. How do you see that particular issue beyond housekeeping, where we might be able to increase customer satisfaction while alleviating some of the financial burdens that the brands have put on hoteliers such as yourself?
Yeah. So again, our philosophy as an operator it's a pyramid. We start with the associates at the base of the pyramid. One of the questions I saw kind of pop up is, hey, do you outsource labor or keep it in-house? We try as much as we can to keep labor in-house because it's about our people. It's about training them. It's about empowering them. And so with the strong associate satisfaction and associate engagement, they feel like they're part of the team. And then that drives the next layer of the pyramid, which is the guest satisfaction. And the guest satisfaction will then drive the kind of the pinnacle, which is the profitability for the owners. Yeah. And so kind of to your question of what do we see in terms of how to drive it? It is the engagement, the training, the working with the associates. That's going to help. So it's not just the housekeepers and making sure the housekeepers know the right cleaning protocols and why it's important and how much it's important to the guests, but also to be able to greet guests walking down the corridor and be able to smile with your eyes now. And the front desk to be able to greet people not just when they're at the desk, but as they're walking in the door and further.
Do you think that this? I'm sorry.
I was going to say our hotels, again, Hampton, Fairfield Inn, you got to have best in class service. The best in class, it isn't reserved for a Four Seasons and a Ritz-Carlton.
Right.
The amenities can change between the different tiers, but the service for us is so important, and that you want it kind of, whether it's a Fairfield Inn or whether it's the JW Marriott, you should have that best in class service all the time.
Now, do you think the amenity creep, and this may be, not politically correct, but I personally think the amenity creep came from brands trying to outdo each other. And all of a sudden, and we know, and Glenn knows this because he's in more conferences than any human being should ever be allowed in. And the competitive nature of our business, if one person has it and seems to be working, then we have to have it. Then what happens is the owners are being told, well, you need it. And the reason you need it is because this, that, and the other thing. And then we need different types of brands. And that brand that's across the street from your hotel, that's the same, brand, we're in the same family, is different because the color of the wall is pink. And it's different. It's not, and you're going to be able to get a different rate or average rate, whatever. I think in some ways we've done a really great service for the guests because most hotels are good. There's very little brand hotels out there today, especially in the 3-star, 4-star, 5-star brands that are bad. And I think that hyper competitiveness really got us to that, and that's good for the traveling public. On the other hand, I think we've been a little short-sighted when it comes to owner and owner concern. And I think you're really seeing that before the downturn. And I think coming out of the downturn and during the downturn, it's really going to be a big thing. So do you think that hyper competitive has really been maybe a negative a little bit for the ownership because we're trying to keep up with the Joneses?
So the owners that are already in place, yes, because it's more cannibalism kind of in their market. But remember, the owners are also the ones that are doing the new brands and the new hotels.
Right.
And so there's still that demand, and the owners or the investors are still trying to get into that space. I think the brands absolutely are great at fine tuning kind of niches, and they are great at building brand recognition and marketing and promotions and kind of in those, they call them very narrow swim lanes or swim channels. And frankly, it's tough to sometimes keep all the brands now apart, and they are blending together a lot.
It's impossible to tell all of the brands apart. You're absolutely right. I said swim lanes was my word of the year for 2018 because the hotel brands were trying to convince the owners out there that their brands are extremely well defined. But it totally ignores the fact that consumers have no understanding about that. They don't care about any of that. And they don't really worry that a hotel is in one category at $58 a night, while another hotel is $63 a night, and that's a totally different category. They see $58, they see $63, and they're going to make a decision based on location and the amenities that property has. But I also think, Ed, one of the issues that we've seen with all of these brands kind of losing track and kind of intermingling and having all of these different things is there is a homogeneity that's occurred with them. And because hoteliers are so great at what they did, what they do, what Anthony pointed out, they are all the same. I remember I used to do a speech and I would show a picture of a room from 3 different brands and ask them to guess which one it was. But you couldn't tell the difference. And all of that's been reinforced with the banks then going ahead and saying you need to be with XYZ brands in order for us to create money. So in a lot of ways, the industry's created this situation for itself. Am I onto something there, Ed?
Yes, and again, it's fueled by investors looking for new opportunities. If I already have a Hilton and a DoubleTree, and I want another Hilton product, what's the next brand that I can put in there? And
well, that's why you see those brands, right? That will create another brand so that owner could put it across the street, even though there might be a $5 difference in rate, right?
Right. And again, each of the brands are very good at saying, no, this one is different or distinct, but there is a lot of overlap. I'd say the one constant, again, for us as the operator is the service. And yes, one brand may have chocolate chip cookies waiting for you kind of as you walk in, but every brand or every hotel has got to have that strong service. And I've got a prop behind me that the JD Power Award is something that we're very
guest satisfaction, right?
It's about guest satisfaction. And this is the first time that JD Power has done a survey of third-party management companies. They've done brands and selected kind of the best brand in class. And this is the first time they did the best hotel property management company or best in class for that. And it was all about the guest satisfaction.
Awesome.
And so again, regardless of the brand or the type of the room, the service is so important. And I think when things are going well, as they were in 2019, a little bit you can hide flaws. Right now, you can't. There's no room for error. And if you have a poor guest experience, that's going to get out there, and whether it's TripAdvisor or other forums, and they don't come back. And so you got to make sure that every guest experience is strong or as good as you can possibly make it.
Right. Yeah, and money solves a lot of problems, right? And in 2019, 18, 17, money was solving some of those problems. So when the guests went somewhere else because they hated your hotel, you had another guest backing up, and it didn't hurt your bottom line. So, but I want to change gears a little bit if Glenn allows me to. Are you going to allow me to, Glenn?
Nope.
Okay.
Nah, just kidding. Go for it.
I'm going to do it anyway. One of the things that our very smart producer David came up with was, how do we do a employee seminar? How do we get companies like yours and other companies together to do some kind of online, do our podcast where we tell people there are jobs out there, and we have basically a job fair online during a podcast. So there are jobs right now in your company. I'd imagine there are some opportunities. Is that correct?
They're not a lot.
Right, there are.
And generally, again, we had massive layoffs and we are now bringing people back. We have seen, as I mentioned before, I think September better than August. October's trending better than September. We were worried that it wouldn't, but we're continuing to see that resurgence. And so we are bringing people back. We're generally starting to try to bring back people that we had to furlough.
Right.
And so trying to bring back our own people. But over the course of 3 or 4 months, people do go on, they find different things. And so, yes, you're absolutely right. There are opportunities still. They are
Few and far between.
We'd love to bring back more. We'd love for things to come back, but and they will. And so I think kind of the concept of having it, yes, it's just a matter kind of the timing, and because we're only going to be hiring up gradually over time.
So one of the things we're going to start asking people to do is to get involved in this job fair, because I think we talk a lot about real estate. We talk a lot about brands. We talk a lot about a lot of stuff. But one of the things that we want to do, because of our fans and because of people like you that come on the show, made us pretty popular, is that we want to use this podium, so to speak, to help people find jobs, because it is difficult to find a job. And like you said, you're going to bring your own people back first. That makes sense. But there are people that have moved on. There are people that changed positions, just got out of the industry. So there may be few and far between, but I think it's critical for all of us to come together to show people there's hope in our industry. And yes, it'll be a little difficult, but there are opportunities. So would you guys, I don't know how this is going to look. We're just working on it, but would you guys be part of that?
Absolutely.
Good.
We currently partnering with a number of groups.
Including, we just had up on the screen, Andy Ingram, president of NABHOOD.
Yeah, NABHOOD just had a conference a short while ago. That's been a great forum for us to find high quality talent. They attract a lot of students. We also work with a couple of universities and partner with them. But groups that people that are following this show, that's the kind of people we want to engage.
Right.
People that are interested in the industry. And again, I said before, it's not rocket scientists. It's about attitude and about coming to it with the desire or interest in hospitality. And I was fortunate enough to work with brands, work with owners, and I keep coming back to the management company and the management business, because that, for me, that's the heart of the business, and that's where the people are. That's where we can make a difference that affects the guests, affects the people, which drives results for the brands and the owners. But this is kind of the cool place to be.
Right. Well, this is the type of person that I think you want right here. As a property salesperson, I found just hanging out in the lobby and asking guests where you were going, where you were from, they found 2 new business travel accounts. That's the kind of smarts that we need right now, Ed.
Yes. And that's absolutely right. It's getting out there. And it's harder now because, again, people are behind masks and things like that. But that's exactly it, because those small leads, and just find out, why are you here? And if we don't know that when the guest checks in, to understand that, because if they are from a local business or a demand generator, we want to be able to lever that up and get more opportunities and work with them.
Yeah, I'm hearing great stories about people going old school, getting in the car, driving around to other hotels and seeing who's parked in the parking lots, right? Reading the names on those trucks and then calling and following up with the companies.
It's knowing your customers, knowing your market. And we used to do direct sales calls, and you come out with a gift basket or something like that. Now you're doing the same thing, and you're coming with little bottles of hand sanitizer. It's got the hotel's name on it or something like that, but still getting out there, because the business is there. It's harder to find. It's smaller, but it's there.
Yeah. And so thank you very much. And we that's what we want to do. We want to talk more about getting people to work, because now we haven't gotten any more. Right now, who knows what the government's going to do? So people are struggling. People are living on a few $100s a week if they're lucky. And and in our industry, unfortunately, a lot of our service workers in this industry are, they don't have a lot of money to fall back on. So they're living paycheck to paycheck. So what I said to Glenn was, I'm not interested in really doing a lot of that kind of work now, when everybody's getting $600 plus their unemployment, plus maybe they had a little cash. They don't need it. It's going to be a time where people really need to get back to work, and let's do something then. And now is the time, because things are starting to get a little desperate for those employees that have been out of work for so long. We had a good problem, whereas these workers didn't want to come back to work because they were doing well financially, and they're like, I'm not going to go put myself in that position right now because I don't feel safe. So that it's a bad position, but it's a good position in the sense of at least they were able to pay their mortgage. Now, middle-aged people that I know that are trying to pay their mortgage are having serious problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Ed, let me ask you about the management company part. We've been talking a lot about the property level stuff, but you're pretty well positioned as a management company. You've managed to make new deals in this overall environment. How are you feeling as an EVP CFO of a major management company with, let me just reset it, 124 properties in your system all around the United States?
So we have been fortunate in picking up new management contracts. All of our management contracts are with owners that we already work with, that already knew us, and it kind of basically appreciated kind of how we did business. And I think, we're getting a little bit concerned about maybe some of the smaller operators that were stressed or strained so much in this environment that they had to have layoffs at kind of the support level. And so that created opportunities for us because we kept all of our support team and are continuing to emphasize and push kind of the core tenets for us, again, and push getting the right people with the right support, the right training, and driving revenues. There's only so much in cost that you can cut, and everybody is working on that and trying to get really lean and mean. But the way out of it is to drive revenues. And so it's making sure you've got the right revenue management, the right sales efforts, and continuing to give the hotels that support. So we've actually picked up about 10 hotels over the summer. And out of 123, that's very good a growth for us. We're excited. Most management companies are earning their fees off of a percentage of revenues.
Right.
And so it's very depressed levels, but it also then that creates a great runway for us as we continue to ramp up and come out of this. Even though our contracts typically are shorter term in nature, giving owners flexibility if they don't like the way things are going, or if they want to sell the hotel, they can be able to do that. Our hotels, we basically just continue to manage with the owners and have for very long periods of time because they think we're good at what we do.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say something there.
No, I was. I had a question. Stop because I forgot what the question was.
All right. So for those of you watching the show, Anthony and I have to do a lot of reading of each other to see who's going to be speaking next, so we don't step on each other. Ed?
I'd probably say on the management company, just like you've had some consolidation on the brands with Marriott and Starwood, and on the ownership side with REITs buying REITs, you've also had consolidation on the management company side. And that's created disruption. And sometimes as the companies are merging, they get caught up in things and take their eyes off the ball. And so that's a tough time for people in the industry as there are shuffles, and sometimes tough for the hotels. And that's something that we've been very stable, have been in the business, again, for decades. And I've just stayed the course. All we do is manage hotels. We're not in other industries, and we're not trying to do big M&A deals where we grow kind of one or two at a time with the right ownership groups.
Ed, I don't mean to be rude, but I don't believe your background. I don't believe you're in finance, and I don't believe you're a CFO, because you are a service-oriented person that's always talking about the team members, the housekeepers, and the line employees. So you're giving CFOs and finance people a bad name.
In hospitality, I got other CFOs I meet. I feel they're the same way, and that's one of the reasons we're.
I'm just teasing. Well, I've had a couple of CFOs. Let's put it this way: I was a general manager. No, I was an asset manager, and the CFO and I had to change the way we reported because it just wasn't going the right way. And so I've met most of CFOs and accountants. They understand, especially if they're born in the hospitality industry.
Right.
But I've had my battles with a few.
All right, Ed. Big question from a HOA board member, Bharat Patel. He asked, Marriott versus Hilton versus others, which brand has an edge in the COVID era? I don't know if you can answer that one without getting into trouble.
No, it's a good question. I think just as you said, brands have started kind of overlapping each other with other brand standards. They actually, I think, watch very closely how each brand was reacting and rolling things out. And as a result, I think they were very close in step. And all the brands, the big brands, came out very quickly with flexibility on different standards like food and beverage and delaying renovation costs. So I'm probably sidestepping the question. I think they have all been pretty good, but I'd still even say, despite the brand standards, from my unbiased position,
Yep.
I think it's driven by the management company, because you could have brand standards that may or may not make sense to implement at your hotel, and you want your operating company to be doing the right thing. And even if a brand standard says, you must wear a mask, if your people at the hotel that are operating it don't have the right policies, the right signage, and aren't enforcing it with a smile on their face, you're going to have problems. And so it's not just the standard. It's again, the people in the operations at each hotel that makes a difference.
So let me ask you this one, Ed. What's your biggest opportunity right now going into 2021?
I'm going back to my peppers, but
yeah. Well, you said that off air, so you got to explain the peppers and tequila.
So the opportunities for us, again, we are not looking at picking up special servicing, which is going to be a big opportunity for other management companies. Which is, we see that more as kind of like babysitting assets for the lenders, and not, our forte is driving revenues and driving guest satisfaction, which isn't what the lenders are looking for, honestly. So that is going to be a big opportunity for some groups, not for us.
Right. Could I just explain for those younger folks that may not understand the whole special servicer thing? If people cannot pay their mortgages and bills, the bank will take the property back, but go through a special servicer who tries to work out the deal before the bank takes it back. Would that be an accurate example?
So basically, the lender is effectively the owner of the hotel, and they just have a different long-term interest, or it's not a long-term, it's a short-term interest in the success of the hotel. And we're much more, and so that will create opportunities for some groups. Some groups will also be looking at opportunities to buy loans at a discount. If the lender doesn't want to actually take the keys and own it, that's a hassle for them, and they may not be set up to do it. I think some lenders will turn around and say, hey, I'll sell my loan at 80 cents on the dollar, and you can go through that process. And so that will create opportunities. Again, it's not opportunities that we will be looking.
Understood. Right. All right. Go on. Sorry.
I was going to say, we're looking for opportunities, basically continue doing what we do, which is providing the right guest services for our hotels, driving the results at each hotel in each market, whether it's the sales initiatives or the guest services, to keep building kind of that reputation and rapport with our owners so that we keep growing.
All right, Bharat's on a roll. I got another great question. Any thoughts on what that's not the question that I was going to ask. He's asking too many questions. What's your number one ask from the brands for help during the COVID era?
So again, I actually think the brands have been helpful in that they have given flexibility on different standards. I thought they were maybe a little bit slow coming out of the box on some of the safety standards at the hotels. And so management companies like Crestline and some others, we actually led the brands and we're encouraging them to push faster on things like pulling the breakfast buffet. Guests didn't want it. Guests and it took the brands, I would say, about 3 weeks of providing a buffet that nobody would touch. And so we pulled those earlier. But right now, I think the brands are certainly working. They're in the right direction. They are giving owners flexibility on any kind of renovation and CapEx items. And it's continuing to work with them and basically cannot come back too fast. I mean, some of the brands have started to say, hey, we're going to start doing our surveys. We're going to come in and start looking, are you checking the box for all of our brand standards? And, right now we're kind of pushing back on those brands and say, now is still the time to be a little bit flexible and let the hotels do the right thing for their specific markets and their specific customer base.
If you had to break it down to one question that you get from guests, the number one, and I won't say complaint, but the number one concern that you're hearing from guests across your brand portfolio, what would it be?
It's safety. And it's, what are you doing to keep me safe? And there is not a simple answer, but it is an answer that you need to, part of the whole guest experience is showing the answer. And it's having, again, your staff wears masks, period. And that's back of house and that's front of house. And they wear masks. and not just kind of around the chin or around the neck, or it is full on mask. You have hand sanitizing stations at the front desk, at the elevators, and it's available. And you have very visible cleaning going on in public spaces. You may not think you need it, but it gives the guests that sense of safety, security, that you're doing things. But even kind of behind the scenes, to let your housekeeping staff know, here's why it's important to make sure you hit all the light switches, the TV monitor. We've removed all the miscellaneous stuff out of the room, so there aren't as many places or points of contact for guests. But everything's got to be cleaned down, and we spend more time cleaning each room now than we ever did before.
Right.
But that's offset by, again, the stay over guests. You don't clean it. And you set the expectation with the guests, hey, we're not coming into your room if you're staying over.
I think as an industry, we should all come up with an award for every housekeeper during the pandemic. Every housekeeper should be given a house and an island.
So they are on the front line. And again, and it's the housekeeper. It is the front desk too. I don't want to downplay that. And so we spend a lot of time recognizing those individuals. And it's not just monetary, because frankly, the hotels don't have the money. But it is doing creative things to say, okay, housekeeper of the day, housekeeper of the week.
Right.
We do videos where we'll basically put together a collage of each hotel's, the housekeepers, their smiles, their eyes, everything, what they're doing. And then we put that together with a video montage across our company, which we'll put up and let run for a day of, here's cycling it through. In the house, they like it. It's like, wow, that's me. And we'll do it to theme music, just like you guys do, and it gets people excited. But it is recognizing that they are in a tough and stressful environment, and we really appreciate everything that they do.
And you said a word that I relate to. It's excitement. When you're running a hotel, especially all the hotels I've taken over, are always under financial stress. They're all turnarounds. I've never taken over a hotel that wasn't a turnaround, and the excitement in the building is always driven by the passion for this business. And I've been in really difficult situations, but we're always laughing. We're always having fun because we're always celebrating the efforts. And it's always hard. And I'm not saying that some people probably won't work for me anymore because I am a little bit tough sometimes, but we are celebrating. Some of our Christmas parties are legendary. And I think that you said the excitement is really important. And our job, if I was running a major company right now, is to be the biggest cheerleader, but also not to be, and I think they're doing a good job of being transparent, of being honest, of being honest. And I think there's no way, in my opinion, 20% of corporate brand or the C-suite is not coming back. 20% of those executives aren't coming back ever. They're going to figure it out, and they're going to streamline those positions. At least 20%. That's just my opinion. So we've got to celebrate the employees and let them know that we have to do less with more, but this is a fun industry. And if you connect with a guest and you make a guest stay better, and because of you've changed. And people say to me all the time, which brand do you like? How does it work? Listen, a housekeeper makes a family feel comfortable. A front desk person makes a family feel comfortable. The brand grows. Period. It's not about the guy, and no disrespect, Ed, but it's not about you sitting in your office. It's about that housekeeper making a relationship. And all of a sudden, they're like, that's the greatest hotel and greatest brand I've ever been in, because it comes down to one person.
It does. And for us, we're really kind of, again, behind the scenes, we're the support or infrastructure to give them the tools, but they're the ones that are doing it. And they're the ones that are making a difference. Each year, we do kind of a celebration of housekeepers, and we'll do, again, these little videos that explain, but they have stories, and here's an experience that this housekeeper had with this guest, and this is why it made a difference. And this housekeeper or engineer or front desk agent went out of their way and did this for a guest, and we show that, and we send it out to all of our hotels so that the teams there can watch it, and it motivates them. One, they're excited, like, wow, that was one of us. And then two, well, I could do that. Well, that's a great example. And so absolutely, you hit on, they are the backbone of the industry, and they are so important.
Is there one story? I'm sorry, Glenn. I have one quick question.
Go ahead.
Is there one story that comes to mind during this pandemic, an employee-centric story that warms your heart, that somebody told you about or went around your company? Is there one that stands out?
There are, and so we had a small wedding, and kind of a small, it was, I'd say, a couple dozen people, and we're meeting at one of our hotels, an extended stay hotel, and there was a problem with the wedding dress, and it was the assistant general manager that basically had some knitting or sewing skills herself, and she took care of it, and it was something that just like, well, that's great. It was so stressful for the guests, and hey, I'm glad to help. And what can I do? And that kind of story, though, there are others. We had an engineer that basically was working in one of the hotels, and the person had a car problem. And this is not his job to help or something like that, but the guest was stressed, and they came out and said, "Yeah, I can help this, and I've got experience with that," and that makes a difference. We had a property in Aberdeen, Maryland, that's next to a baseball field, and actually had a baseball team staying in, and the team needed their uniforms cleaned, and the dry cleaner or the laundromat they were going to go to was shut down, and they said, "Hey, you can put it in our hotel's laundry facility, and we'll use that. We come on in, back of the house, and put your team's uniforms in here, and let's do it."
Beautiful. That's what being a hotelier is all about. So 2 quick things. Number 1, if you guys hear any weird noises in the background, my son is now in band practice. Sorry about all that. They homeschool on Thursdays. But Ed, the question I have for you is, there are a lot of people out there that aren't necessarily on the same plan as us, being conscientious of others, wearing masks and stuff like that. That's a very difficult situation for your hoteliers at the property level to deal with. What tools are you giving them to give them the confidence that they can handle some of these uncomfortable and awkward situations?
You're absolutely right, and it happens a lot. And so one of the things we do actually is role playing, because we had so many examples of this, and we don't want our front desk or our housekeepers to be police and to dictate. But what we do is role play and instruct them on how to approach guests, and very politely encourage them. Say, our policy is to have a mask, and I see you don't have one. Would you like one? We have complimentary masks available. Would you like one? But it's really important for us in the public spaces. It protects you and us as part of our policy. And how can we help with that? And it's kind of approaching them, not to say that you're wrong, but this is kind of our policy. Can you help us, or can we help you help us? Move forward.
Yeah, I had a situation yesterday. I went into a bagel shop, and a really, really big guy in front of me was not wearing a mask, refused to wear a mask. There are signs all over the entrance asking people to wear it. And the people at the store said nothing. They just didn't. And I feel badly for them, because I bet they felt uncomfortable, but they were scared because this is a huge dude. And he's already angry enough not to wear a mask, know?
It does put people in a difficult position, but for us in our hotels, even though it puts them in a difficult position, not saying anything can put other guests in a worse position. And by saying something, again, in a polite, professional manner, it lets them know that that's the policy. And if the person still refuses, again, we've done some role plays with this at different hotels that are, I'll probably say, more in zones where it's more often. It happens more often. We are not going to turn around and say, I'm calling the police, or you must vacate the premises. But we do, again, continue to try to emphasize the importance of this for our policy, for our people, and for other hotel guests.
I think that's an important point, because you don't want to make a front desk person who's already short-staffed and already overworked now a police officer. And now, so listen, get them in, get them out, sell them the bagel, and get them out of your get them out, because you don't want to put them in a situation. But I do want to go back to that security. I'm really begging people that if you have a hotel and you have one employee in that hotel, you have to have another person. You need backup. You need to have 2 people in the hotel. You can never have one hotel run by one person. There's always got to be somebody, or at the very least, there's got to be a panic button or some kind of emergency out. I've seen too many problems where people are by themselves and they don't have the resources to protect themselves. So I'm just, as a night manager, I started as a night manager at the Embassy Suites in Times Square, and then the Plaza. So I spent a lot of times at night in Times Square when Times Square wasn't great, but I always had support. I couldn't imagine not having support.
And the examples you're giving with the big box hotels and major downtown markets,
You can
absolutely. I mean, that is a liability that would be horrible for the owners and for the people involved if anything were to happen. During the pandemic, we did have a number of hotels shut down. All of them now, except for 2, are reopened, so that's great. But when a couple shut down, there were smaller select service, and they shut down not because the business had gone away, but actually because of local ordinances. Like when there was one in Silverthorne, Colorado, that shut down. It's a smaller market. This was a smaller hotel. We actually were able to push through with one person overnight because it's again a smaller secondary market. But we do have protocols. The doors are locked.
Thank you. I was going to say, if the doors are locked and you have to have a key to get in, that's obviously a different story. I'm just talking about when they don't put in the technology to do that. And if the door is locked and you don't have a key, you don't get in.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Well, we are way over our time with you, Ed. I have a feeling you're one of those guys we could talk to for hours and hours and
This
hours.
is great.
Yeah. Well, we're going to have to get you back on.
You guys are hitting on key topics that are really important, and I hope everybody's listening because you're talking about the people. This is excellent.
So, Ed, you're not just a guest, you're a listener, huh?
Absolutely.
Well,
Awesome.
And I know a lot of your guests, Julian Smith was one of the ones you had on, a great friend, and you have some others that it's very good.
Awesome. So, Ed, any final thoughts that you might have to wrap this all up? And feel free to give a shameless plug for Crestline.
Excellent. I thought the whole thing was a plug, but
yeah. Well, yeah, but this is more overt.
No, again, you guys are hitting on great topics. I think you're doing a service for the industry, and I want you to keep pushing and having your listeners push for government policy. It does make a difference. And I'd say kind of for us at Crestline, we think that the operations are so pivotal, and that stems to the people. And the people based, to give them the tools, give them the support, the training, and bringing in the people that have that, desire to serve is so important. And they're right now, they're on the front line. They're under a lot of stress. So any support that you guys can give them is terrific. So thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. Hey, former chairperson of AHOA says hello from HP Patel over there. He's over at Curve Hospitality now. Hope to get them on board. I think they're going to be coming on as an advertiser early next year. So thanks, HP, for that. And thank you so much for being here. We'll see you again real soon, for sure. Thank you. Wow. Yay. Yay.
You didn't get the guy to even say thank you. Rob,
oh, wait, hold on. All right. Say thank you then.
Thank you. Fantastic.
All right, sorry. Bye. All right. First, most important thing, don't worry, Bharat. The bagel was fantastic. Garlic bagel, cream cheese with scallion in it. Good. All right, Anthony, what do you have to say?
Okay, my question is, what did you do after you had that bagel to work off those calories, my friend?
I went for a walk, but honestly, I very rarely have a bagel because it is so caloric.
I've been eating clean for 1 week, last Saturday to next Saturday. And then Saturday, I'm just going to go crazy. I'm going to have a bagel with lox and all that stuff. But you know what's interesting? I've been on clean eating, very few calories. I'm very, I'm trying to kind of get my body back in shape. And I gained 2 pounds.
That's absolutely hysterical. Well, I'm just trying to get out there. I found that stress is a great way for me to lose weight. So I've been able to maintain this amazing physique that we got here. My shape, round, but that's okay. I like it. I feel good. What am I going to do about it?
Another great guest, another great conversation.
Seriously.
And so one of the things I want to do, and it was David's idea, I think it was David's idea, is to have some kind of job fair. So we're going to put something together where we figure out how you to contact us, tell us the jobs that are available, and we're going to somehow have a job fair, and maybe we'll have some people on. We haven't figured it out yet, but I think it's really important to do that. And it's not only for line employees, but for mid-level managers and even executives, people out of work. I mean, when you go to LinkedIn, you see, open for work. I mean, when's the last time before the pandemic? You didn't see that, did you? I don't remember seeing open for work. It would be, matter of fact, I always said, if you're looking for a job, don't put on LinkedIn looking for a job, because people are like, why are you looking for a job? Right. And, use your resources. But now it's appropriate to say open to work because there's so many people out of work. So I think this shows at the point where we have a voice that we need to use to try to get people. Because again, there are some jobs out there, needle in a haystack, but there are jobs out there.
Speaking of that needle in a haystack, shameless plug for me. Follow me on LinkedIn because I'm connected with a lot of people. I see a lot of those job announcements, and every time I do, I share it with a hashtag hotel job. So please check that out. It'll be a good resource for you if you're looking for a career move as well.
Absolutely. A good show, my friend.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you so much for being here. Oh,
Hold on.
David.
Anthony made a comment about Glenn going to way too many conferences, which we all know is true. And I sent this to Glenn the other day, but I was going to show it to the world because I feel like this is Glenn's mantra pretty much every morning.
I didn't see that one. I do. Actually, I'm really in it for those little squeezy cush balls. I'm trying to put together the world's largest collection of those. So,
Amy Morgan, that is the best.
Right?
Let me say that again. That is the best post I've seen in a long time. Where'd it go, David? I want to read it again.
Oh, it's gone.
It's gone. Okay, gone forever.
That's all right. Kind of like, wait, it's back.
I just want to go to a real conference with bad coffee and pastries and get some pens and a tote bag instead of logging into another webinar. Truth teller.
Yeah. Oh,
I just want a chicken dinner. I want a bad chicken dinner with broccoli and a watered down drink.
Right?
With a waiter who sometimes looks at me cross-eyed. Then I'll feel.
It's so funny. I remember the first time I got stuck in traffic since all this happened. I didn't know whether to hate it or to be really happy that people were getting back on the road and commerce was happening.
Yeah.
You know?
Listen. I was supposed to travel today, and I decided at the last minute not to, just because I had too many things going on. But Monday, we're taking our show back on the road. We're going to be at the Garden City Hotel. Grady, the general manager, thank you so much, my friend.
Great. Respect for that.
Yeah, Grady approved us to come on Monday. So we're going to test out some new equipment so we don't have some of the problems that we had over at the Rockaway Hotel. And then Wednesday, we're going to Big Snow out at the Meadowlands, which I'm really excited about. So I will be on skis on Wednesday, which I'm really excited about. Then we'll be in Washington the following week at 3 or 4 different hotels popping around doing our podcast. Yep. And then the following week after that, hopefully,
I did hear back. It looks like we're going to be okay to go to Vegas that third week of November. So things are coming together on that as well. So on Wednesday, again, we'll be on skis at Big Snow. Anthony will be hosting the show alone on Thursday because I will be in the ICU for all the injuries that I get on Wednesday.
No, you're not allowed to get on skis.
No, I really shouldn't be. We were joking around, David and I, that maybe we should do a little funny video with me. But honestly, I will injure myself.
I don't want you. I need my partner. I am not doing the show by myself.
All right, but we do have to go on one of those roller coasters over at the Nickelodeon World.
Oh, well, you can do that. I'm going to be coming. We're going to open the show where me coming down, and I'm going to do a Susie Chaffee stop. If you're old enough to know what that is, you'll know.
I don't remember her. I remember the Susie Chapstick commercials involving her.
Right. Well, she used to come into those commercials, and she used to basically skid out on her skis. I don't know what that's called, and the snow goes all over the camera. So we'll be doing that.
And for some reason, I'm thinking of the Claudine Longet, who accidentally got shot or something like that. I remember that from an old Saturday Night Live bit. You guys can check that out there. I'll try to figure out what that was.
Okay. Thank you for the quote about who's that, Suzanne? Thank you, my friend. I owe you a call. We got to get together. The color of my tie. Thank you. I stepped off of camera during one of those single shots because my tie wasn't exactly straight and the dimple wasn't working. So it was giving me some anxiety.
Yes. Excellent. Thank you.
What does that say? Rockaway is a what?
Great people.
Absolutely. I will. Listen. I'm not going to talk about the Rockaway Hotel anymore because I just love it so much. People think I'm an owner. I'm not an owner of the Rockaway Hotel. I absolutely love it. Great people over there. Great services, and just go out to Rockaway even in the middle of the winter and stay at the hotel. Trust me. If you don't like it, Glenn will pay your bill.
Thank God that it's such a great hotel. I don't have to worry about that. So that seems like a good seal of approval. I didn't get to stay there, but the rooms look great. But I can attest to the tuna tacos. They were amazing.
Weren't they good?
Yeah.
Whatever I had was really
the
good.
Sliders and tater tots were some of the best I've ever had.
Oh, I had the fish sandwich without being fried because I wanted to eat it without being fried. But I had it both ways. 2 weeks ago, I had the fish sandwich when it was fried. And I was like, I don't really want a fried sandwich. And then I ate it, and it's so crispy and it's so thin and so light. It was delicious. Then I had it without the fry, and it was just as good. I couldn't tell the difference, to be honest with you. The fry was so light that I really couldn't tell the first time after having it without the fry that it really didn't taste good.
Wow.
Absolutely, and they're really on point with their drinks. Oh my God! Somebody check out what a jetty key is. I think that's what it's called, the jetty key. They have a drink called the jetty key. Does a jetty key really exist? If you're a lifeguard, you'll know the answer to that question.
All right. Well, I think that's a great place to leave us today, Anthony. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast on Checking In with Anthony and Glenn feed, the No Vacancy feed, because we know a lot of you out there love listening to the audio versions of the podcast. Why not take us along with you? Subscribe to our newsletter. Check us out on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, all the places you are. That's where we are too. Anthony, next week you're coming back with Hospitality Success, right?
Thursday, Hospitality Success. Be there, be square. Facebook, 3:00 on Thursdays. Me and my partner, Jeremy, and I'm allowed to make this announcement. In December, my friend, dear friend and partner who I love to death, will be getting married to an amazing man. And so I'm really, really excited. I am not invited to the wedding, but I'm not holding that against her because the only other person invited to the wedding is her fiance. So they're having a small wedding down in Florida, just the two of them, and then they'll have a big one after COVID. But I am so excited. She's family to me, and congratulations, my dear friend, Jeremy Pinkerton.
Yay, Jeremy. Congratulations to you. Can't wait for your special day where we'll be at home. Maybe we'll go to Borgata that day or something like that, just so we could feel good.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next week. Remember, we got a best of show at this time slot tomorrow. Can't wait for you to watch that one. We'll be back next Monday. Remember, until then, you've got one life, so blaze on. And
first of all, thank you, Michael Weinberg, for being a great fan. Maritza, thanks for being a great fan. And